Another first for the Apple sheep here. I don't recall there ever be a time I told anyone to not buy a specific type of Apple Watch, but looking at the certain circumstances, I'm starting to think it's a pretty bad idea, and I might as well warn you about it now. Let's begin. Alright, let me first preface this by saying I have nothing against you guys using an Apple Watch Series 3 right now. In fact, my wife to this day is still using an Apple Watch Series 3, and it has aged fairly well in the past few years she's had it. I'm simply referring to people who have yet to buy an Apple Watch. They're thinking about buying one. Maybe they're reading about iOS 14.5 and they work somewhere where they have to wear a face mask all the time, so they're like, hey, I should get an Apple Watch. This is going to save me a lot of time. The fact is, Apple loves flashing around that $199 starting price of the Series 3, but I did some thinking and I did some research and I realized that out of everything Apple sells new on the website, not counting little accessories or little adapters here and there, but like a dedicated product, the Series 3 is by far one of the oldest things on Apple's website that they haven't touched in years. Keep in mind, it first launched in September of 2017, meaning that this year it's going to be nearing 4 years old, and it's also the oldest Apple Watch to support the latest watchOS. So there's probably a decent chance that watchOS 8 will still work on the Apple Watch Series 3, but even that is not really a guarantee. But my main point is, if you buy a Series 3 now, there's a decent chance you're not going to get any more software updates, and Apple's going to just label it a unsupported, discontinued Apple Watch by next year. By perhaps 2022, they could be saying, Series 3 doesn't cut it anymore. And also, it's kind of a dated design. I mean, it's all personal preference, but in my opinion, after using the Series 4 for a few years, now the Series 6, it's a much more clean, up-to-date design to have those thinner bezels, and the Series 3 bezels just look so incredibly dated. And everyone I know who was buying into Apple Watches before the Series 4 came out was a much bigger fan of the 42mm size because it was larger and the screen was a bit more bearable compared to that abysmal display on the 38mm Apple Watch, which was really, really tiny. And it's not bad if you end up going with an Apple Watch SE or a Series 6 or even a refurbished Series 5 or 4. They go on sale all the time. The 40mm screen size is honestly pretty good. Like, it's enough for most people, and I've seen a lot of people actually opt for the smaller Apple Watch now, post 2018, now that the screens are much bigger and the bezels are much smaller. But the simple fact is that S3 chip is really, really slow, and it is a real pain in the butt to try to software update the Series 3 because it has such a dated processor, and there's so many things on the Apple Store that are still way newer than the Series 3, okay? I think Apple still flashes it around so people get the illusion that it's still new and it's still this recent generation Apple Watch, but truly, it was launched alongside the iPhone 8, which Apple does not even sell anymore, and the iMac Pro, which Apple hasn't touched in forever, that launched in December of 2017. So the Series 3 is even older than that. It's still not on the 64-bit architecture, which is why software updates are so troublesome with the Series 3, and I don't want people buying $200 Apple Watches and then finding out within a year of buying them if they're going to be discontinued and not supported anymore. And some of you may be thinking, well, I don't care about the watchOS 8 or watchOS 9 coming out. I just need it to tell the time and I need it to work, and I guess that's fine, but I would just highly encourage you to consider opting for an SE, especially if you are planning on going with a 42mm Series 3 anyway. That means you're going to be spending probably more than $200, and the base model Apple Watch SE is going to have a smaller footprint but a similar size display to that 42mm Series 3 you're considering. It'll look a lot more natural. It'll probably get way more years of software support because it's actually rocking an S5 chip, which is built on the 64-bit architecture, meaning software updates, they take their time because it's a watch, but it'd still be a lot faster than the Series 3. And to be completely frank, I'm very shocked Apple is still selling it. Normally, this many years into a release cycle, or when a device is this close to being discontinued from software support because Series 3 is as old as the watch support goes, typically Apple would stop selling something like that because traditionally they do not want to sell something that's going to end up not getting software support in like a year. And that's not the case with the iPads. The iPad Pros, they came out last year. The iPad Air came out just a few months ago. iPad Mini, which hasn't been touched in a while, still came out in 2019, 2 years after the Series 3 came out. And the budget iPad, of course, was just refreshed a couple months ago. So even all the iMacs have more up-to-date Intel specs than they did in 2019. 2017. There's been refreshes pretty much everywhere except with that Series 3, which has still remained untouched since September, and I would feel really bad if a lot of people were thinking, I should get an Apple Watch, that one's cheap, and they get that one, and it's slow, and it's unresponsive, and the bezels on it are thick, the display on it is tiny, and you feel like, this is just not a great Apple Watch experience, and then a year later, Apple rules, you don't get any more software support. So if you run into bugs, or if you run into issues, it's very likely that you won't get much software support with those bugs, and more features will stop being available for that older Apple Watch. And while it was a great watch for the time, I'm not trying to hate on the Series 3 in general, I'm just saying buying one new from Apple right now in 2021 is probably a really bad idea. If you just absolutely are in love with the Series 3 and you need one because you hate the new design of the Series 4 or 6 or whatever, then at least get one on sale or something, okay? Like, I see them on Amazon for way under $200 and much more affordable than what Apple is selling them for. And just keep in mind that it's possible it won't get software support for much longer, and the Apple Watch SE is barely any much more money. It's really only like 50 or 60 bucks more, and the SE or the Series 4 and 5, they go on sale at Best Buy or Amazon sometimes too. So just because of the software support and the fact that it's like the oldest product Apple is still selling, I highly encourage people, don't buy the Series 3. You're so close to buying something that could last you much longer and have a much more manageable display. Anywho, thank you all for watching. This is your Apple Sheep here. I'll see you guys in the next one.